How can one careless line, "I miss sleeping with my ex," turn into a calm reply that he already knows it happened last night, followed by papers served in a bright lobby? Why did I think memory was harmless when the present had timestamps, photos, and quiet steps that never raised a voice? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Lida Orsini, 33, the receptionist at a small dental clinic where I smile for people who hate drills. I live with my husband, Aaron Hale, in a tidy townhouse with quiet walls. Our wall planner hangs by the fridge. Our two mugs sit on opposite counters, mine by the kettle and his near the sink. I tell people we are steady. I tell myself the same when the rooms feel bright in a hard way. This morning I said I miss sleeping with my ex. I meant it as honesty, a kind of therapy. Aaron asked if I meant last night or a long time ago. I laughed it off and said, memory is a living thing. He said he already knew it was last night. He did not raise his voice. He carried a pillow to the guest room and said he needed sleep. The door latch clicked like a stamp. Mira, my sister, texted that growth hurts brave women. His mother, Ruth, sent one line about keeping the house calm for Theo's weekend. On the planner, a pencil note appeared. Downtown 940. In the kitchen drawer, a thin binder labeled "Utilities looked too thick for bills," with a sticky note that read, "Bring forms." The printer warmed and pushed out a single blank page. My phone flashed an unknown preview and then went dark. I saved a small photo in a hidden album and told myself truth only stings before it cleans. The kitchen looked like a stage I could arrange. I wiped the counter, though it was already clean. I placed our two mugs where they always go, mine by the kettle and his near the sink. Two mugs mean marriage. I like that picture. The wall planner beside the fridge showed neat little boxes and a new pencil note I did not write. Downtown 940. I traced the numbers with my finger and said to myself it was a bank errand or a shoe repair. I said it was not about me. Aaron came in with that soft quiet that bends a room. He asked how I slept. I said, well, because well is a lid. He asked if I meant it when I said I missed sleeping with my ex. I said I meant honesty, not action. He asked again if I meant last night. I said memory is a living thing. It wakes and walks. He said he knew it was last night. He did not raise his voice. He took a different mug from the back of the shelf and poured coffee at the far counter. Distance can be louder than anger. I opened the long drawer to find a napkin and saw a thin binder labeled Utilities. It was too thick for bills, with new plastic sleeves and clean tabs. A yellow sticky note rested on top. Bring forms. I closed the drawer slowly, like lowering a lid on a small box. I said we were getting very organized. He said order helps a home live. I said order is a hobby, not a life. Steam lifted from the kettle like a tame ghost. My phone buzzed. Mira had sent 3 heart knives and the line growth hurts brave women. I lifted the phone as proof that culture was on my side. Aaron said, sisters protect sisters. I said husbands should protect wives. He looked at the planner instead of me. I tried to sell my version. I said last night was closure and safety. I said old feelings are like splinters. They must be pulled out clean. I said I handled it with care. He asked if care meant telling him before or after. I said honesty is not a schedule. It is a light. He looked at the sink and breathed evenly, as if counting. He carried a pillow from the chair and walked toward the hall. He said he needed sleep. The guest room door eased shut. The latch clicked, clean and small, and still it felt like a stamp on paper you cannot peel off. Silence gave me a mirror. I opened the fridge and set out the blue cup we use when Theo visits. I told myself families calm down when cups are ready. I moved the mugs closer for 1 minute to see how the picture looked, then put them back on opposite counters, because truth should be tidy. On the side table, the printer warmed and pushed out a single blank page. The toner smell sat in the air like cold dust. I held the page to the light as if words might appear from heat. Nothing did. I walked to the window and looked at our cars. His was parked nose out toward the street. Mine faced the wall. I told myself that meant nothing. Parking is parking. I watched a couple pass with a stroller and decided they were less honest than I was. I like decisions that flatter me. They work like lotion. When I came back to the table, Aaron's phone face lit and then went dark with a label that said private. I told myself every company has privacy routines. I told myself I was the brave one because I used real words like miss and last night. I let the thought sit on my tongue like a mint. I washed the spoon I had not used because washing is a way to claim the room. I packed my bag for the clinic. I took the blank page and folded it once, then again, until it was a small square. I slipped it into my pocket, like a proof that something had happened even if I could not read it yet. On my way out, I met Mr. Kurtz by the mailboxes. He asked if we were well. I said we were steady and made the word large so it could cover us both. He nodded at the flyers like they might teach him about people. I stopped at the door and took a soft photo of the planner and mugs. I wrote a caption I did not post. Honesty is love. I saved it in drafts, which felt like kindness and also like a weapon I could use later. Both can be true. I came back at mid-morning because I said I forgot my badge. The house held a careful quiet, like a classroom during a test. On the dining table, Aaron's laptop sat open to a spreadsheet with initials and dates, neat as fence posts. As I stepped closer, the window minimized. He came from the hall and said not to touch his computer. I said I was just passing. He said he was keeping track so he could stay calm. I said, love does not need a ledger. He said calm does. I had no good answer to that, so I said I would be home early and make pasta. He said he would manage. The word manage made me feel small. I stood in the doorway of the guest room and looked at the made bed. The pillow was centered like a white flag. The nightstand showed an empty glass and nothing else. I told myself separate sleeping is mature. I told myself we were smarter than everyone. Back in the kitchen, I put 2 apples in a bowl and turned them stem up because I liked the look. My phone lit with a preview from unknown and then went black before I could read it. I said out loud that I did not care. I cared very much. It is easy to say a thing and then stand inside it like a tent. I left for work with my head high. I told the door I was brave. It sounded silly, but I liked how the words filled the hall. The dental clinic lobby glowed with soft bulbs and a looping slideshow of teeth that did not scare anyone. I put on my badge and my calm smile. I like glass because it shows my outline. I can fix my shape and then my voice. I told myself I would guide the story before lunch and make the afternoon easy. At 9:55, a calendar bubble slid across my screen. Quick word at 10:15 from Gavin. I typed yes with a tiny sun emoji. I printed reminder cards for patients and rehearsed my lines in my head. Last night is a figure of speech. Closure is healthy. Honesty is love. I said them silently until they sounded natural. At 10:15, I stepped into the HR nook with glass on one side and the sterilizer hum on the other. Gavin asked how I was. I said focused. He asked if I knew a rooftop photo with Kai had been tagged with my name, and comments under it suggested a last night reunion. I said, people take jokes too far. He said optics matter because our clients bring their children and their nerves. I said, honesty is good for health, even in love. He asked me to keep posts neutral this week and avoid captions that invite debate. I said I would consider it and that the internet hates plain women. He thanked me for being professional. No form was handed to me, which I called a win. Back at the desk, Sonia slid a stack of mail over and said it was a loud week. I laughed and called it growth. She said water helps. I drank because drinking looks like listening. I posted a throwback coffee photo to bury the rooftop tag and added the caption softwork, strong heart. The hearts came slow, like people saving their breath. I texted Aaron that the office supported me, and his distance made me look guilty. I told him we should post a normal smile. The dots did not appear. A small stone rolled inside my chest and did not stop. At lunch, I walked to the pharmacy for lotion and breath mints. I asked Aaron to meet me because the lights there are honest. He arrived on time. He asked which days I could take Theo this week. I said logistics are not love. He said logistics keep children safe when adults argue. I said we were not arguing. We were evolving. He said he would not debate under pharmacy lights. His phone lit with a call labeled private. He stepped outside, put on headphones, and paced under the awning with that even mouth I now knew. He was not dramatic, he was precise. I watched through the glass like a person watching a silent film and trying to guess the plot. He came back and asked if I had what I needed. I said I needed him to say he trusted me. He said trust follows facts. I said facts follow stories. He bought my lotion and mints and folded the receipt once before putting it in his wallet. He said we would keep our voices low for Theo. Low can feel like law. On my way back from lunch, I ran into Mr. Kurtz near the magazine rack again. He asked if we were happy. I said we were steady and made the word big and shiny. He turned a page about tomatoes and nodded at a picture of red fruit, like it held the answer to my life. In the afternoon, I checked in patients and smiled at a little girl who did not like the fluoride tray. I told her the tray was a tiny boat and her mouth was a calm lake. She laughed, and that laugh rubbed a soft cloth over my day. I am good at kindness when I want to be. I wish people would grade that higher. When I reached home, the house had that faint toner smell, as if paper had been breathing by itself. The small printer on the desk warmed and slid another blank page into the tray. I touched it and felt the heat that meant something had happened, even if the page did not show it. On the dining table, Aaron's laptop glowed. A spreadsheet filled the screen, initials and dates in a neat grid. I leaned a little to read. The window minimized fast, like a door in a windy hallway. Aaron came from the hall and asked me not to touch his things. I said I was just passing. He said he was keeping track so he would not forget the truth when rooms got loud. I said I was the one being honest. He said honesty is not volume. His voice did not change shape. His phone flashed, meeting, personal, and dimmed. Another block blinked and went quiet. Downtown 1350. I asked what downtown meant. He said errands. I said errands have names. He said he would keep them simple. He set the phone face down. Simple can be a wall. I tried to make air move with nice things. I set our 2 mugs close and took a soft photo. I posted it with the caption teamwork. The comments were careful and thin. Mira wrote Queen of Growth. Ruth did not respond to my message about Theo's bedtime. Silence circled the post like tape. I took the laundry up the stairwell. Halfway up, footsteps paused on the landing above me. A faint beep cut off, the sound a recording app makes when it stops. I looked up. Aaron stood near the guest room with his phone in his hand. I asked if he was recording me. He said he was recording himself, so he could practice staying calm. I said calm is a costume for control. He said calm is a seatbelt for storms. The guest room door eased almost closed. Theo called on video from Ruth's kitchen. He asked if we were coming to the long table on Friday. I said yes in my soft voice. He asked why I slept with my ex if Uncle Aaron lives here. My tongue went slow. I said it was closure. He asked if closure means leaving someone alone at night. I said closure is a grown-up step. He said it did not feel grown up to him. Ruth said routines help children sleep. The call ended with a small wave that felt bigger than the screen. I stood by the wall planner and saw a thin red circle around Friday. I did not draw it. I wrote family dinner under the circle and added a tiny heart. The heart looked weak next to the ring. My fingers shook a little. I told myself hearts are small by design. Back in the study, the laptop woke itself for a moment. A small bubble popped near the corner. File uploaded successfully. The screen went dark again. I stood very still and tried to hear if anything else in the house had changed shape. The fridge hummed. A car door closed outside. In the hall, a drawer slid shut and a small key turned with a clean click. The sound felt like a period at the end of a sentence I had not read yet. I walked to the balcony and let the night air touch my face. I wrote a caption I did not post. Truth first, fear later. I deleted it and saved a picture of the sky in a hidden album with the others. I told myself I was keeping art, not evidence. Words can be taught to wear new clothes if you speak them often. When I went back inside, I placed the mugs apart again, the honest picture. I put the new blank page beside the first one and folded them both into a small square. I pressed the square flat with my palm and slid it into the same pocket. I liked the weight of nothing that felt like something. I said the story needed a better stage. Mira said a friend had a rooftop pregame before the club, and the skyline made hard choices look modern. I chose a clean dress, with sleeves I could push up or down. I told the mirror I would speak softly and sound brave. The elevator opened to warm music and string lights. The city looked like a tray of tiny fires. Mira hugged me and said the night was mine. I said there was no battle, only context. She laughed and said I spoke like a PR note. I slipped my sleeve a little and showed the inkless wrist on purpose, like restraint. A circle of friends asked about the post I did not make. I said I was being kind. They cheered for kindness because kindness is easy to clap for. Aaron stood near a row of potted trees with Silas from his office. They looked down at traffic as if the road was a judge. I walked up and said we should take a couple photo. Aaron said later. I said later was a moving target, and the light was perfect. He said we would keep the evening simple. Silas nodded at me with a small, careful face and looked back at the skyline. A chant rose from the long table. People called my name and tapped glasses. I raised mine because first voice makes shape. I said smart adults plan safety. I said last night was closure, which is care, not betrayal. I said I might see my ex again to finish the story clean. Phones went up like flowers. A camera flash popped white and quick. The sound felt like a stamp of approval. I smiled and sold the ease. Near the DJ, someone lifted a phone. The red dot blinked. I took the patio mic nobody used and spoke in a gentle tone. I said staying near the club or knocking on an old door can both be safe choices when a city is loud. I said honesty is love. Laughter came in warm waves. A woman I did not know called me brave. I said brave and wise are cousins. My chest felt light because strangers believed me. My phone buzzed under the table. Kai had written that he did not want to be part of domestic comments, and that he hoped I kept heat off his work. I wrote back that I would control the narrative. He did not reply. I screenshot his message and saved it in the hidden album, then slipped the phone into my purse like a coin. We moved to the club at midnight. The patio smelled like sugar and smoke. Mira asked for a clean context video so the internet would behave. I stood against the wall light and explained that last night was closure and the city is complex and adults make plans. People laughed at the beats I gave them. Another flash turned the patio fog to a white curtain. The red dot blinked again. I explained that Aaron is careful at work and I am careful in life, so we match. The crowd liked symmetry. Aaron waited near the exit with his hands in his pockets. I said we should record a joint clip for peace. He said we would go home. I said the night still had a job for us. He said home had the only job that mattered. The bass thumped lines through our sentences. We left. The parking garage air tasted like dust and old toner. A tiny hum came from somewhere, the sound a machine makes when it rests after printing. Aaron opened the trunk to lay his jacket down. A clipboard sat underneath. The top page showed one word in clean type. Statement. I asked if he was writing speeches now. He said notes help him not say what he would regret. I said notes are knives with paper handles. He closed the trunk with a careful hand as if sound could bruise. His car was parked nose out toward the ramp. Mine faced a wall lined with yellow stripes that were chipped and tired. He took a tiny USB stick from the console and wrote the date on a strip of tape. He slid it under a folder, labeled taxes, in the side pocket. I said he was building a museum of cold things. He said warmth needs shelves or it spills. I said the house is not soup. He said houses can scald. On the drive, my phone buzzed once. An unknown number flashed and died before I could read it. The ring left a small bright circle in the air, and then it was gone. I told myself wrong numbers chase brave women. I also told myself I wanted to ask Aaron to hold my hand at red lights. Both were true, and they fought. At home, I posted one rooftop shot with a caption about city prudence. The hearts came slow. Mira sent a flame. Ruth said nothing online. Mr. Kurtz liked the photo without a word, which felt like a quiet note slid under a door. In the study, Aaron's laptop glowed. A spreadsheet with initials and dates sat open like a list of small bricks. When I stepped closer to read, the window minimized. He slid his chair in and said we would talk when the room was quiet. I said I was quiet now. He said quiet is more than volume. His phone blinked with a reminder, downtown 1610. The numbers sat like stones I could not move. He washed 2 glasses and set them to dry at opposite ends of the rack, 2 posts holding a small gate. He went down the hall. The guest room door eased toward shut. Family dinner sounded like a fair trial with napkins. We met at a long table in a family restaurant, paper menus, a birthday song in the corner. I wore a soft sweater that hid everything and tried to look like Patience. I said to myself that I would call last night adult honesty and make Aaron nod once in front of the group. The nod would be my win. Ruth hugged Theo first, then Aaron. She gave me a polite nod that felt like a rule book with a ribbon. Mira slid into her chair and squeezed my hand. She whispered that I should say, closure saves marriages, and I said I would say, truth makes love strong. The server poured water. Glasses made quiet bells on the table. I stood and raised my glass. I said families should clap for honest adults. I said last night closed a door that was open too long. I said honesty is love because secrets rot houses. Ruth kept her glass down. She asked how Theo was sleeping with all the changes. I said he sleeps fine when lights are warm. She said children read rooms before books. I said our room is bright. She arranged the salt and pepper like 2 witnesses. Theo looked at me and asked why I slept with my ex if Uncle Aaron sleeps at home. Forks paused above plates. I laughed and called it closure. He asked if closure means leaving someone alone at night. I said closure is grown-up work. He said it did not feel grown-up to him. Aaron asked if he wanted rice or noodles. Theo said rice and looked at me again. The birthday song finished at the next table and felt too loud for the size of the cake. I tried to bring air back to my side. I said the world is complex, and safety sometimes looks like steps others do not like. I said old love must be faced to free new love. Mira said women who tell the truth get punished. Ruth asked if informed husbands must call pain growth. I said no one was being punished. She looked at Aaron's face and folded her napkin once. I ordered dessert for the table to end the moment with sugar. I said we would walk to the park after, breathe, and reset. People agreed with movement, even if they did not agree with me. At the playground, the swings creaked like old chairs. Theo asked if smart truth can still cut people. I said hurt is a choice. He asked whose choice. I said sometimes it is shared. He said he did not share it. He slid down with his shoulders high. Ruth watched him like a lighthouse that does not blink. Back home, the stairwell smelled faintly of paper and dust. I carried a bag with bread and soap. Halfway up, footsteps paused on the landing above me. A faint beep cut off, the small sound a recording app makes when it stops. I looked up. Aaron stood near the guest room with his phone in his hand. I asked if he was recording me again. He said he was recording himself so he could keep his lines steady. I said lines for what? He said lines for staying calm and clear. He stepped into the guest room. The door eased, almost closed. The world felt full of soft doors. In the kitchen, I set 2 mugs on opposite counters because pretending they were close had started to feel like a prank. I said we should take a photo together and write about growth. He said we would be respectful and clear, not performative. I said clarity feels like a wall. He said walls keep storms outside. His voice stayed level, which made the wall taller. I touched his laptop with 2 fingers. The screen woke and showed a clean desktop with 2 new folders side by side, Archive A and Archive B. He came from the hall and closed the lid gently. Not fast, just final. I said archiving a marriage felt cold. He said saving truth is warmth that lasts. I said warmth is soft. He said soft can burn. The sentences slid past each other like trains in a tunnel. The wall planner had changed again. A heavy red circle wrapped Friday. Next to it, a pencil note appeared as if it had always been there. Downtown 10:05. I wrote family dinner under the circle and drew a small heart. The heart looked like it wanted to be somewhere else. I took Theo to the supermarket for juice boxes. At the checkout, a neighbor I half knew asked if we were happy. I said we were steady and made the word shine. The scanner beeped in a flat rhythm. Theo asked if truth means leaving someone during the night. I said truth is care. He asked if care felt like leaving. I said adults know the difference. He looked at the belt-moving cans like a train and did not speak again. On the way back, Mr. Kurt stood by the mailboxes flipping envelopes and not reading them. He looked at me once and then away like we were in a library. I balanced the bag and made my face calm in case someone wrote it down. Inside, the pause returned, a little longer each time. I reached the study as Aaron opened a narrow drawer, placed something inside, and turned a small key. The lock clicked with a clean note that landed like a period. On his screen, tabs flashed and minimized, storage options, delivery tracking, notary near me. A small cloud bubble appeared and slid away. File uploaded successfully. The house made no other sound. My mouth went dry. I asked if he was turning our life into a filing cabinet. He said order keeps people safe when stories slide. I said stories are alive. He said living things need fences. I posted a photo of the 2 mugs, far apart, captioned finding rhythm. The hearts were slow and narrow. Mira texted that she loved me, but would not argue with Ruth. Ruth texted Theo's routine with times underlined. I told myself tomorrow I would write a perfect caption that would explain everything. I practiced words silently until they felt like stones in my mouth. I stood at the window and looked at our cars. His pointed to the street. Mine faced the wall. I pressed the folded blank pages in my pocket with my palm. I called them proof that something was happening, even if the words did not show yet. I liked the weight of them against my hand. It felt like a choice waiting for ink. I booked a small conference nook at a co-working space by the river and sent Aaron a shared invite. I wrote that we should talk like adults and reset the tone. He arrived on time with that steady posture that slows the air. I placed his favorite pastry on the table and called it a peace sign. He thanked me and asked which days I could take Theo this week. I said logistics were not love. He said children walk on logistics when feelings slide. The air handler hummed like a careful teacher. I said we should post a new photo and say we were fine. He said posts were not a plan. I said image is part of care. He said care is steps we keep. On the chair beside him lay a clipboard. The top page held one word in clean type, statement. I leaned to read more. He moved the board a little, not fast, just away. I asked if he was writing speeches. He said notes help him avoid words he cannot take back. I said notes are knives with paper handles. He said knives are loud. He was building quiet. We walked to the pharmacy because I needed lip balm. The lights there were too honest. His phone lit with a call labeled private. He stepped outside, put on headphones, and paced under the awning with that slow, even mouth. I told myself it was work. I also told myself it was a rehearsal for leaving. He came back and asked if I had what I needed. I said I needed him to say he trusted me. He said trust follows facts. I said facts follow stories. He paid for the balm and reminded me we would keep our voices low for Theo. In the parking garage, he opened the trunk to slide his bag inside. 3 neat binders sat there in a row: home, auto, bank. Clear sleeves caught the dim light. A single USB had a strip of tape with today's date. The small, unfamiliar key on his ring flashed like a tiny blade. I asked what it opened. He said it opened what needed opening. I called it cryptic. He said it was precise. His car waited nose out, pointed toward the street. Mine faced paint and wall. At home, his laptop woke. Tabs flashed and hid. Storage options, delivery tracking, notary near me. A small bubble slid across the corner. File uploaded successfully. He slid open a narrow drawer, placed something inside, and turned the small key. The lock clicked with a clean note that felt like a period. I tried another angle. I said I might fall apart if the distance kept going. I said food tasted like paper and sleep would not come. He said threats were not a path. He said if I was unwell, he would drive me to the doctor or ask Ruth to sit with Theo. He said fear would not steer our home. I said his mother was running him like a file. He said routine was not a whip, it was a rail. We ate dinner with quiet hands. Theo talked about a paper bridge at school. I reached for Aaron's wrist so the table would look soft. He moved his hand away gently and asked Theo about glue choices. After dishes, the shredder hummed in the study for 3 slow seconds and then went still. He stood by the wall planner. A reminder glowed and dimmed on his phone. Downtown 1525. The digits felt like pebbles falling down a well. I followed him to the kitchen. I said we needed a weekend reset, a short trip, a fresh set of photos. He said we would keep things steady and follow routines. I said steady was a costume for distance. He said distance was a boundary when rooms went loud. I said I could fix this if he would play along. He said he would handle it properly. He said the word like a lever pulled all the way down. I said properly was a slogan for people who hide. He said properly was protection. He turned off the light. The dark nodded for him. I chose marble and echo because bright places make people kind. I went to the office tower lobby at lunch and stood near the directory screens. Footsteps made a pattern that sounded like rules. I rehearsed a soft speech about honesty and city nights. I told myself if I reached for his hand here, he would remember the team we used to be. Sonia entered first and saw me. She asked if I was meeting Aaron. I said yes and that we would clear the air. She nodded and stood by security like a quiet witness. Aaron appeared a minute later with his bag strapped straight and his face calm. He stopped 3 paces away. I stepped forward and said we should be normal and tell the room we were fine. He said we would follow the plan. I asked what plan. He said the plan that keeps things clear and civil. From a bench near a planter, a man in a neutral jacket stood and said my full name. The sound carried on the marble like a bell that belonged to the building. He asked if I was that person. I said yes because it was my name. He placed a stack into my hands and said the delivery was complete. The weight of paper changed how my shoulders sat. The top page said petition. The lines were clean and calm. Temporary orders spoke about use of the residence and access rules. There were limits on accounts to prevent sudden moves. A section required written-only communication for any shared logistics and no scenes at handoffs. A brief demand asked me to remove posts and clips that tied Aaron's identity to humiliating talk about last night and closure, with a note to preserve copies elsewhere. A first date sat close, like a stone a person could trip on. The words were not angry. They were arranged like furniture you could not move. I told Aaron we could fix this at home with tea and careful voices. He said we would follow the orders. I said he was choosing strangers over his wife. He said he was choosing stability. I said he was punishing me for honesty. He said public repair begins with rules when harm started in public. He thanked the server for being professional. The man nodded and stepped back to the bench. People near us looked at their screens with sudden care, as if their phones had become more interesting than a woman holding papers. My phone buzzed. Ruth texted that routine helps Theo and that we should follow the schedule. Mira wrote that she loved me, but could not take sides. I read both lines twice and found no door out. I said, last night was closure, not betrayal. He said the papers spoke for themselves. I said I was scared. He said we would communicate in writing from now on. His voice stayed level, like a hallway without doors. The elevator bell chimed. Sonia held the door with one hand and watched the floor. Aaron took a step toward the elevator and paused. I lifted my hand as if asking to cross a street. I said we were still us. He said we would follow the schedule. He said, take care. The bell chimed again, patient and final. Security asked softly if I was okay. I said I was fine because fine fits any public space. The word temporary, near the top of the order, looked like a brand. The marble reflected me smaller than I wanted to be. Aaron stepped into the elevator. Sonia released the door. The chrome line slid to the center with a quiet seal. The air felt bright and thin. The stack rested in my hands. The result had already started. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.